Hello, and once again, welcome to Tracing the Gospel Truth under the Character of Parables. With me, Nkululeko Shabangu. Today, our topic for today is the Ten Commandments. According to Deuteronomy and according to Exodus, when Moses was giving out when Moses was giving out the laws by God, these were the laws that were given to Moses strategically by God, who is the Almighty Jehovah. The grace of the law was to implement a strategy of understanding the law. Let me go to Deuteronomy 5 and read you some of the law. And Moses called all Israel and said to them, "Hear, O Israel, the statutes and judgments which I speak in your hearing today, that you may learn them and be careful to observe them. The Lord our God made a covenant with us in Horeb." I would love that you may understand the two mountains. When Moses was given the law in the mountain of Sinai, in the mountain of Sinai, two things happened. Sin and destruction was caused when Moses came down when he came down from the mountain in Sinai. Mostly what was happening, what angered Moses was one of these protocols. One, they were making their own gods out of silver and gold. These were gods that were unable to speak, and these gods, they were idols that were made and created to be worshipped by these so-called Israelites. Now, I just want to define the whole strategy of these two mountains. In Mount Sinai, there were sins, those that were caused because Moses was did not yet give them the law. When he came down amplified to give them the law that God had given to him. But now, due to the idols that the Israelites made, they defiled God, and Moses got angry with them. Moses to them was like the messenger. Now, according to the Gospel of Exodus, in Mount Sinai, what eventually happened, mostly a sin was identified And now immediately when you go to Mount Horeb, Mount Horeb was a place whereby all the beginning of the good intentions of God started there. Moses was traveling through to the mountain of Horeb, where he identified a tree that was burning. But that tree that was burning, its burning issues, it was not the leaves, everything on the tree, the branches were not even eventually demoralized. Or maybe let me put it in this way. They were not burning out in a certain way that if you look at something being burned, it becomes burnt to ashes. Now, this tree was a miraculous tree because it was burning, but it was not dissolving as a tree that was burning to ashes. You need to identify this issue about this tree in Horeb. And when Moses identified this tree, he had on his mentality the concept of saying, okay, let me just pull myself through to the tree and see why is this tree not burning, not burning to ashes, but it is burning. So eventually he started traveling towards the tree, and now the voice of the living God started talking. Moses. Now eventually Moses was stunned by the attitude of the burning tree talking to him. Eventually, after this tree started burning, after talking, and he answered, he said, I am he. And then he was emotionally told that he must remove his sandals from his shoes because the place he was going to, he was entering during the process of the scenario, it was a holy ground. And Horeb, there are two stigmas. Self-identity, where everything, Moses identified himself through the first scenario where he identified himself in Horeb. And when he was in Horeb, he identified understanding and hearing the voice of God. And as it was delivered, he clearly heard it and understood it. And now, eventually God understood and saw clearly that Moses understood me clearly. Now, when he was in Horeb, now God spoke to to Moses and said to them, hear, O Israel, the statutes and the judgments which I speak in your hearing today. Now, eventually God was speaking to them. Moses was the messenger, delivering every law. God was eventually there himself, uttering the spoken words from the voice of Moses. And this was the law, thou shalt not. And eventually, thou shalt not identifies the commandments and the statutes of the law, that thou shalt not commit certain prescribed laws and commandments that everyone must adhere to. Now, when it comes to the character of parables, there was a certain manner of understanding the description with which Moses was speaking unto Israel. And when he spoke to Israel, wanting them to understand the law and the statutes and the judgment according to God's law, the implementations, it was not of the fleshly scenarios. But now, though the fleshly scenarios brought down the commandments and the laws and the judgments and the statutes of God through the liberty of understanding what God was trying to show unto the people, the character that God wants people to behave, the attitude that God wants people to behave, the manner which God wants people to behave. It was delivered in a manner of the parables, which was defined as a manner of the God's will, which was a hidden agenda of Israel's understanding of the prophetical laws. For instance, thou shalt not let me go to this one. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image, any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water underneath. You shall not bow down to them, nor serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me. I love this one because God expresses himself according to the idols which people, or can I say, which Israelites created before they even defiled him. They knew him not, yet though he also understood that they were going to make idols or gods, which were going to be a symbolism that was not going to convince him, or that was going to make him jealous. And because he says he's a jealous God, this is the scenario that he doesn't want people to carve images. Now, when he makes this promise that thou shalt not make any image or any god according to his protocols, laws, commandments, and statutes, he wants to make sure that he is a preserved God. Normally, if you can try to understand, images are made and are carved out of, even human beings carve. They make themselves idols, making eyelashes, eyebrows, and they create God. God has created you with, or let me say, the way he is convinced, the beauty and everything that he has embraced in you, about you, with you, your attitude, your everything. He wants you and he appreciates you the way you are. Hence, we people do not want to appreciate ourselves the way we are. When we look at ourselves in the mirror, we also create images of our likeness, idols of our likeness. And when you look at yourself in the mirror, you are no longer a God's image. You are either a concept of your own idol or a concept of your own God. These are one of the character of parables that God expresses, that he doesn't love and he becomes a jealous God according to the way he has made you and has felt you are perfect, completed by the way he has designed you. There are many characters and there are many laws that I would love to express the scenario about. But for starters, this is just the beginning of making you understand the character of parables, hence tracing the gospel truth under the character of parables, how God embraces his humanity amongst men, and how he discards or dislikes idols. These are situations where we make ourselves idols, we make ourselves gods of him who doesn't like us making images, making idols out of out of his own image. And we want to worship the beauty that we see in our mirrors, because now we have enhanced our beauty to our own idolical virtue. This is just the beginning of understanding the gospel of discipline that God doesn't want you to possess. He wants you to own his will and understanding, that you may appreciate whatever he has distilled in you, and whatever self-confidence, whatever humility, whatever humor, whatever great justice, whatever peace he has tried to instill in you. Now, let us try and strive for his humility. Let us try and strive for his justice. Because we do not need to contradict ourselves. All we need is to give ourselves a better understanding of these laws whereby God sends through Moses to us, that we may know his will, his likes, and his dislikes. We have learned to love God, hence we do not know why he smite our initiatives that we take. The initiatives that we take are not making him happy. I would love just to to take a short breath here and hear from you what you wish to understand and hear your own opinion and about this video that I've tried to give you the light of my understanding from me, Nkululeko waka Shabangu, in tracing the gospel truth under the character of parables. I thank you. Ciao, ciao.